It's the heart and soul of our sport, where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
No more break, it's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders. Welcome to you all, as we are here now for the evening segment of today. Well, evening, at least for us. Elsewhere, it could be different, but it is the Summer Series amazing North American region here. I am excited to be here alongside Kenobi. I am Rich Rat, and I think we still have some really exciting games today, Kenobi, as we get closer and closer to completing this round-robin stage.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are really high, probably the highest they've been throughout the entirety of the round-robin stage so far, especially in NA, where we have all of these teams so close between each other in those standings. No one's really secured any spots yet. That could obviously change after today's matches and going into tomorrow as well, but a lot to still play for, I think, for a lot of these teams, especially when it comes to, like, seeding. There are some teams that are even fighting for their chances to even get into playoffs, squeaking into that 7th or 8th seed, but here's the schedule that we have for today. Saints versus O3 Splash starting us off, and then Wisp versus Amplify. That first one, a battle of second versus third, should be an absolute banger to start us off. And I wouldn't be shocked, Rich, if we continue our tradition of a very competitive, very long first series of the day. This feeling like a map fiver to me, potentially.
100%. And we can take a look at the standings overall, and you touched on it, to where that basically 5th to 9th teams are really fighting for those final spots, because it's so close. We've got 5 and 3s, we've got 4 and 4s, and 3 and 5s. That can be a lot of shifting with today and tomorrow's games. So there is so much to fight for across the board here, and I am stoked to see how it's going to really pan out. As you mentioned, the 2nd and 3rd seed to start the day off with, and at this point too, for what you and I got to see from O3 Splash, a moment of redemption, because they did just recently lose to Wisp, and not the most great of fashion either. So now they want to come back at this and really show that they are still a top competitor, especially going against Saints, who is that number 3.
Yeah, I mean, O3 Splash has a really tough strength of schedule going forward through the rest of this round robin, right? They play Saints today, they also play Good Boys, and then round it out with playing Pip. So basically the 3rd seed, the 5th seed, and the 1st seed going into today. So I mean, it's going to be a very tumultuous journey for O3 Splash to try and keep that 7-1 record. Pirates of Jam is looking pretty at 7-1 as well, with that very high map differential, as you saw. But obviously, starting things off, going into chat predictions, 1 for Saints, 2 for O3 Splash. Make sure you get those in. We want to hear from you. And I think that, like, the other thing about this matchup in particular is that this is, again, another litmus test, I think, for O3 Splash, because their strength of schedule had been relatively easy. Beforehand, they had played Timeless, I think, was the strongest, and, like, Strix was another strong opponent that they had before, but they haven't played someone the caliber of Saints, who looked very good when we saw them on broadcast last time, even bringing Tree in, to play the tank role. And actually, if my eyes are not deceiving me right now,
oh my,
Tree is going to run the gauntlet, run the gambit, I guess. Just, DPS, tank, support. Why not?
They, on the Liquipedia page, they want all 3 icons to be available to them, and not just specifically one. They're shooting for the whole gambit. As we do get to see another name in here that we, were able to have unbenched for the moment, as some would say, especially from our interview, King, coming out of this, which we did see the tail end of their match, where the Genji play was absolutely stellar on that map of New Queen Street, where they were just completely dominating against their opponent in such a convincing fashion over Strix. But just overall, this roster in and of itself is one to be, not too calm to compete against.
And I mean, we do have to kind of mention why Tree is in this position. It's because Cal has, left and gone to the Gladiators. So, congratulations to Cal. They've been working very hard. In Contenders have been one of the best, I think, supports we've had in Contenders for quite a while consistently. So definitely hats off to Cal, and congratulations to them for being able to make it to the Gladiators. We'll see if Tree can fill the void that Cal has left behind. But that other team that you're talking about on the other side, O3 Splash, I think this team it was interesting to me, like how much of it was weird, because they were 7-0 going into this, and going into that matchup we saw against Wisp, and they got absolutely fleeced by Wisp.
Yes.
I mean, Wisp absolutely took them to the trailer park and just completely annihilated them. And I think for O3 Splash, this is about redemption for them, like you were talking about earlier, where they need to find a way to kind of bring the momentum back, because if they start to fall pretty heavily down in this group stages, I would be very worried about that momentum affecting them going into the playoffs, because they were so strong at the start. now kind of like, what was that? I guess it's like the question would be, was that 3-0 just a fluke, or are they like, really now at this point trying to fight up against the best of the best, and do they have the teeth to be able to compete?
And it might have been one of those occasions where, you find yourself on top, you become a little bit more, soft in thinking, what their competitor is going to bring to this. Wisp being, having their rough leaps and bounds through over the course of last season and going into this one now for Summer Series. And they really came back with a force to be reckoned with. An 0-3 Splash now, I agree with you. I think that they could maybe look to that being a one-off situation to where they get 3-0'd and have quite a performance played against them. But now that they have this time to reset, they've had about a week to be able to find their footing and can go against this squad, Saints, which, again, like you mentioned, a little bit of an adjustment with the roster due to that amazing opportunity for Cal. And we're going to be heading on to Oasis first as our map to see how both these teams are going to unleash what their preparation is for each other.
And with False being in the lineup, I would expect this is maybe trending towards something that's not the Winston. Usually this is a map where we could see like a lot of Winston, but also you have those maps specifically like University where you see a lot of the Ramatra. So I think that's probably what we're trending toward if we're going to be the Saints in this regard. It will be interesting to see like what we're seeing it from that support line, because Tree is going to be sitting there on flex support, which is not something we're used to seeing from Tree, more of that DPS player, but they still have, Vision and King, a very, very capable DPS lineup in its own right. So I think that it obviously is going to take some time probably, and we won't see like Saints at their very best like we saw them even, in the previous spring series where they won the entire thing. I think that's kind of like, we're not going to see that version of Saints. It's probably going to take a little bit of time for them to gel. And luckily, even after this week, they still do have about a month break before playoffs. And I'd be very surprised if they didn't make playoffs at all. So I think this is for Saints. It'll be good practice for them to like try and maybe get Tree some sea legs under him to figure out how to play like the support role, because it's not, it's not as easy as just like rotating it back in. You got to learn some positioning stuff. And Tree, I think, is very smart, so it shouldn't be too hard for them to figure it out. And the rest of the team around him is very good.
Yeah, and I mean, having that ample time is really important. Whereas if it was a lot closer to the playoff bracket, where, again, Saints are saying, you know what, this is the moment where we just kind of play our game. We're not too overly tense about the methodology behind it. They still continue to play to their strengths. And then once they get into that playoff stage, that's where they really step it into high gear. And now being able to have Tree step into this role due to circumstances, giving them that time, I 100% agree with you that there is more than enough for them to start getting back into their A game specifically. And this will be like a really great, I think, litmus test to see how Tree is going to fulfill this role. And also, I think, give a little bit of an opportunity for 0-3 Splash to get their footing back up on this as well after the match that they had recently.
I think it's great for Saints that they have someone like Vega to be next to Tree in this situation, because Vega is like one of the... I think you can make an argument that Vega is the best support that we have just in Contenders NA in general right now, because of the strength and his flexibility, being able to go over to things like the flex supports and be very mechanically good at those as well, and just his understanding of Lucio. I think that having Vega there next to Tree is going to help a lot in kind of making sure that Tree is able to like fit a little bit easier into this support role as Saints are going to be starting off. I don't think Tree is going to be playing the Life Weaver to start things off. That's definitely not what's going to happen. This is most certainly going to be an Ana. But again, get your trap predictions in: 1 for Saints, 2 for 0-3 Splash.
This is actually what Tree's going to bring out. No, I'm just kidding, everybody. Like, could you imagine? I would just want to see one round of this. Like, just one round.
Nope.
Just
no way in all hell do I want to see that. The less Life Weaver we see, the better.
Ooh, those are some bold words, as we do have some bold words about to be traded among actions here, pushing up to this initial position in Gardens. Nice hack to come out early, though, onto King, keeping them up top on that catwalk, as Vision down below needs to be cautious in how they enter into this, since they are at a low health value, needing to get some assistance either from Tree or Vega to get back in, as Luke really is able to just buy some time, stick it to the back, wait for Infected to dive in onto this, and actually giving a lot of coverage to the supports where really False can't get as much value. Nice recovery. Luke gets the pickup, denies King a second time here after the hack earlier, so it's really challenging for Saints to get a solid foothold, where 0-3 Splash is really taking full control of this.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, they're trying their best at this point from Saints and from False specifically to try and zone out the backline, but it's not really managing to work, and I think O3 Splash is having a really easy time right now just maneuvering around this map. They're focusing down King a lot, specifically from boats, and using those hacks and making sure King isn't able to just roam around the map as much as he wants, because they know that there's a potential for King to be able to spam and then get an assassination and then the fight ends. So really good, I think, target prioritization coming out from Boat, as Pulse Bomb from Lukewarm does not manage to hit. Vision is coming up on one of their own, and that could be a difference maker.
Active, primed and ready. You do have the translocate out, so there's no ability to escape on that, but Vision doesn't go full throttle just yet, continuing to really keep an eye on where Boat is entering back into this. Who will have... Oh, what a sleep! Oh my goodness, are they going to collapse on it? There is the conjunction so that they can completely take them down. Tree as well going to be shut out. So this is another fight win here for O3.
Yeah, and I mean, now with the percentage continuing to tick up, it's going to be even harder for Saints to enter into these fights because of the fact that you have O3 Splash with this EMP on the board. And I think one of the other things we have to talk about Tree not being able to, play in this roster and play on the DPS end is that Vision has kind of had to take over for this Tracer role in this matchup, and Vision, much more known as like a hit scan player more so than anything else, and the Tracer is not something we've seen too much from him, and you can see just a little bit lacking behind Lukewarm right now in the TVT battle as the Nano comes in onto King. The sleep is so good though.
Yep, and just outside of that barrier, a little bit premature in dropping it to deny that situation, but underneath, Deco getting a lovely whip shot onto King to secure that elimination, who has been consistently brought down early in these fights, not really being as valuable as they would like to. The duplicate not yielding any value either. 20% still to go, and O3 Splash is still in prime position to take this.
And Saints used everything for that fight. I mean, that was everything in the kitchen sink that they had that they threw at that fight and didn't end up winning it. And in fact, it still has the primal rage, so sustainability is way in favor of the O3 Splash right here. And it's last fight territory. Saints got to make something happen in neutral, but Tree is absolutely obliterated. And with Vega going down soon, that's going to be the fight. There's no way back for this one.
Gets squashed on entry. Infected, as you mentioned, with the primal rage, zoning out the remaining. There's no ability for Saints to gain any sort of control, so that is a 100 to 0%. And O3 Splash, as you and I talked about at the start, are definitely wanting this to look like it was a one-time event against Wisp.
Yeah, this is also one that I think that we have to contextualize just a little bit. I mean, O3 Splash did play that very well, but also Saints just don't look like the same Saints that we saw, even like last week, right, where they had Cal still in the roster. Saints now being able, having Tree on this role, it makes it a lot more difficult. Now with, like, potentially we go over to a map that's a little bit more open, False can play something he's a little bit more comfortable with. That's potentially where we can see Saints start to come back into this one.
And I'd love to see this Junker Queen, because it's played to such proficiency from Saints. Alongside Tree, going to be here with that Kiriko to have a lot of the, survivability, the Suzu, having the swift step for mobility across this. So I'm liking how they're going to bring this composition to the table, especially with Vision on the Cassidy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot more easier for Saints to pilot, especially now when you have Vision on this Cassidy. Long-range hit scan is the wheelhouse of Vision, and King on the Tracer, very prolific Tracer in his own right. So I think that this, for Saints, this is a much better composition for them to pilot on this map. But already King gets taken out by a nice combination between Lukewarm and Bow, and that means that now the double flanker look from O3 Splash can play much more aggressively because they don't have to worry about that other Tracer.
Yeah, so clean out the gate once again, taking full advantage from the get-go. Pulse sticking to the low ground here. Just getting chipped away for the moment. Lukewarm getting 3 damage onto it to rise towards that pulse bomb. Vision getting covered for the moment. Body block from Tree as there's so much focus fire onto them. Still skirting by with just a sliver of health, eluding around the architecture. King and Vision work in tandem to take down the duo that got the early pickup and gives Saints the opportunity to claim this first.
Really good patience from Saints there, being able to just survive through all of that.
You got hit by the car!
That's unlucky, it happens sometimes on a map like this, but it was really good patience. I mean, from Saints, they lose King that early, but the thing is they don't really panic too much. Tree gets taken down very low, but the peel is very good and he's able to escape. So Saints, I think, did a really good job of just weathering that storm, and now they're looking kind of okay, especially with Vision taking down Lukewarm. That means no Pulse Bomb is in this fight, and O3 Splash are going to have to wait to get back into this one. I think they're probably going to be, coming in, waiting for that Pulse Bomb, then probably trying to use the Nano, seeing if that's something that they need to really break open this fight.
King up top could look for the triple dash to find value onto somebody with this Pulse Bomb, but waiting, keeping a watchful eye of where Boat is. They are lurking in the backside. You could hear the hack attempt come through. Dive forward now from Infected as you have the Nano active. Pulse Bomb still being held onto. There is the Kitsune Rush, but Tree is eliminated upon activation. Pulse gets 1, so that is something for the Troubles, but this is still 0-3 Splash with numbers advantage to play onto this point. False just sticking close, making sure to keep it contested since there's not really the sufficient damage that can eliminate them on this point, and Infected even has to commit to Primal Rage to knock them away. Rampage coming back in to retaliate by False, slept in the back. Nice juggle as well back onto King, and they've swapped it at 69.
I mean, this is very close. Vega's coming back soon with the rallies, so I mean, Saints are just trying to stall this one as much as they can, but with the flip, it's going to make it so much more harder, but actually, it's being committed, and Infected gets obliterated right there, so now it might swap back over, and 0-3 Splash are going to have to retreat again. That's really unfortunate for Lukewarm. I think Vision rolled into him.
Yeah.
that's
pretty sure
funny.
that happened. Vision's just like, hey, come here, bud. I ain't going to let you get away with this.
Yeah, that's a return descender if I've ever seen one, and now at 85% up and ticking right now. Saints are very close to touching spawn doors, and 0-3 Splash, I mean, they have some things to work with, like the EMP and like the rally, but Infected desperately is going over onto that Hammond just to offer a little bit of sustainability as they try to contest here and proc that overtime.
Seconds remaining for contention. Dropping back in over top. Infected goes for a nice swing underneath. EMP active. Gets Vision low. Finally gets the pickup shortly after with both coordinating alongside Infected. So there is the opportunity with the numbers advantage now for 0-3 to swap this back, but it's 99 into the overtime. It's a tall mountain still to climb for 0-3. They do have to commit the rally into this to make sure that they have enough fortification to sustain on this point. The Pulse Bomb gets blocked, consumed, and making sure that it is going to be denied by that shield. Nice landing as well from that front position to force back Saints as Infected rotates here. Gets a pickup onto the back line, but Vision and King are bringing this back in. They eliminate Deco, so it's only going to be neutral looking to survive through this. Has the nano boost and commits it onto the front line, making sure that Luke can just bob and weave around to find these pickups. Vision in their sights, and they're still holding on to this with percentage.
I mean, False is still alive somehow, someway, just sustaining with the healing coming in from the Kiriko. Kitsune Rush is available for Tree relatively soon here, and that might be a commitment, I think, from Saints. They want to go back in with these ultimate advantages.
Jagged Blade pulls Infected, Rampage across the back line, chasing down neutral. What a sleep to buy some time, but King is there with the assistance, also having the Suzu and just reposition of the Swift Step from Tree forward to guarantee that they eliminate it, and now we'll swap it back in the overtime and look to just force back the remaining queue of 0-3.
Yeah, just a lonely Infected here, and eventually goes down, and 0-3 Splash have to find a way to potentially get someone back on. They cannot, and that is going to be a win from Saints here on the second sub. And I think it definitely makes sense why they won that map, because it looked like a lot more comfort, right? You saw False on Junker Queen, Vision was on Cassidy, King was on Tracer Tree. Like, I think that if there was like a support that's like the most DPS-ish, it is going to be something like a Kiriko, so that felt like a lot better from Saints because I think it played a lot more to their comfort, and that's why it looks so good, as we'll see probably this, yeah. Oh no, not even. Oh, actually it was Magnetic Grenade, so they couldn't blink away. Just the hinder.
Yeah, all right. Okay, I love that capture by our observers, always giving us exactly what we might not have seen, just having some fun with as we enter in now to the third round. It's a 1-for-1 score.
I'd be so mad if I was Lukewarm.
Oh, I would be so as well. Feeling the chill of death there coming in from Vision. We opt in now to University. Wall comes out from Boat instantly to try and deny access, especially with that jump from Tree on the Baptiste. Brawling towards the window position as Vision still gets a decent amount of damage, has not yet generated towards that rail shot, but getting still quite a bit of charge with the few that do put themselves in that sight line. Nice rotation back down to the point as the wall comes in again from Boat to block them. No one yet eliminated as King in the back looks to potentially get a couple of decent icicles alongside Vision. Forcing out the cryo freeze is big though. Boat vulnerable. Nice wall to give the assistance from Infected, but this side angle from Vision and the reposition can be really challenging. It's an extended skirmish and no one yet dropping.
You gotta keep an eye on these ultimates. Tree is getting really close towards the amplification matrix, and also Lukewarm has been farming this backline for a Pulse Bomb, is getting really close towards it. That could be something that could make the difference as this fight continues to be elongated.
An extensive duration. It's been a long time since we've seen one go this long before a takedown happens, as Deco will be the first blood among combat. There is a Pulse Bomb and an Annihilation in return from False to force back 0-3. Saints managed to gain this and start climbing with percentage.
And I think this is really well played from Saints specifically, where if you have someone like Lukewarm on a Tracer just continuously pestering your backline, really big props to them for Saints for just not panicking, right? Because it's very easy to just get overwhelmed about that Tracer, kind of turn around and make sure everyone has to look back at them, but the Saints just said, no, it's not really that big of a deal. We have the sustainability to chew through it. They're able to win that fight, and now Lukewarm is taking down Vision, though. That's big.
Rotating in the back, Blizzard still being held on to. Tossed out just after the cryo freeze, but Lukewarm with the rail shots coming in big onto King. So that buys them a little bit more time to keep it in contention, but still 0-3 Splash able to force away the rest of Saints to swap this over and stabilize for some generation.
I felt a little bit like desperation there from King throwing down that Blizzard, thinking that there was a possibility to win that one, but free farming for Lukewarm on that high ground as 0-3 Splash. Health bar is getting a little bit low here, and Vision now with an overclock into this fight. Coming from the high ground, Sound Barrier is used to negate it.
Nice coverage as the moment. Keep them alive. Deco gets the counterplay onto Vision with the overclock as well, giving so much attention to that to deny any sort of value that we consistently see Vision bring.
Really love that understanding as well from 0-3 Splash, where they know that there's no sound barrier on the other side, so they can just go in aggressively onto that high ground with the sustainability and overshields from the sound barrier and completely take Vision out of the equation. So 0-3 Splash now are going to eclipse the percentage of the Saints here. Both teams coming in on those Ant Matrices.
The doorway of doom from both sides. Nice wall for the moment. What a shot from Lukewarm on the rail. Able to continue pumping out damage. False needs to be extremely cognizant. They draw back. Another body shot comes out onto Tree so Deco can get the follow-up with the boop. They are just consistently following up on those initiations from Lukewarm.
And I mean, this is something we've seen Lukewarm do a lot throughout this group stages so far when we've seen 0-3 Splash on broadcast, where once the Sojourn starts heating up for Lukewarm, there's almost no way of cooling it down, right? Even against some competition like Vision, who is extremely talented on the Sojourn as well, Lukewarm has just been firing on all cylinders. Now with the overclock available and we're in last fight territory, Saints are going to have to make a miracle happen here.
You can see this two-prong positioning. Boat, oh my goodness, Cryo Freeze instantly has to be procced to survive through that damage coming in from Saints as they rotate towards the center position. Falls very far forward, pops the Annihilation, looks to isolate them away, but is instantly shut down. The counterplay from Infected with the Annihilation of their own. 3 ultimates stacked on top of one another to completely remove Saints from this position, and it allows 0-3 to claim this first map of control.
0-3 Splash take control here and bounce back a little bit from what had happened last week. Looking, I think besides that one, the second sum up that we saw, it was pretty much relatively convincing for 0-3 Splash here. Lukewarm, after this twist onto the Sojourn, really started popping off. I love this play as well from Deco and the entire team. Just knowing that Vision's not really going to be able to live, right? If you have 500 health, Sojourn one-shot from Overclock is not something you have to worry about. So it's really good macro understanding from 0-3 Splash here, using those ultimate advantages in the best way possible. And again, with Lukewarm popping off as much as he did, this was a great performance from 0-3 Splash to start things off and start taking their steps to securing themselves one of those top 2 spots, because I think going 7-0 is something, before last week when they played Wisp, they were one of the best teams that we had, and then that Wisp, kind of took the feet off the gas just a little bit in terms of how we view them. But if they can come in and beat the Saints team, I think they're right back as being one of the better teams that we have.
And all those support players in the chat right now are feeling really good seeing a play of the game for support specifically. Deco just smelling blood in the water and saying, all right, I'm coming for you, Vision. I'm coming for you. Those are the kind of plays that you love seeing from supports. And it really is. And I agree with you entirely. The 0-3 now has been able to, even though there's still some glimmers of, great play from Saints with this adjustment, and they looked so much better in that second map. They looked substantially better. And now as we waver away from control, entering into our next map type, looking forward to seeing that they can continue to get that foothold, to be competitive, to counteract against 0-3, because it was more so one-sided on the first map, more so the other, and then it really kind of convenes in that third round. So you are absolutely right at the start of the broadcast. I could definitely see this going to a map 5 with the way that both of these are playing for the second and third seed.
And one of the things we also have to kind of mention about the Saints team as well is the fact that they have this tank matchup swap that they, between having False in, between having Mikey in. I think that's something that we also the team looks different because of how good Mikey is at Winston. And when we go to our second map, which is going to be Numbani, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Mikey enter into this matchup, because of the fact that this is very much a Winston style of map, high ground control, very important. I think the only other option would be like Diva or something like that. But I think that at this point, I would love to see Mikey come into this and really start to change things up for the Saints here, bring in that Winston play.
Yeah, and Numbani, again, really being able to utilize that high ground position, especially when we talk about the initial control that they have to gain before transitioning into that payload phase. We've seen some stellar combinations of things. We've seen some Cassidy's. We've seen a lot of Echo, because it just really brings so much value and able to counteract a lot of what these teams are able to do. And also the high risk, high reward factors, where we're seeing these focusing beams getting these initial picks early and are able to capitalize on that space so rapidly. Or we have the polar opposite, where nobody really goes down. They extend the time so lengthy, they can't capitalize onto that position. And we do this round robin system back and back again to try and compete it.
But I think this will be good for Saints because, you bring in Mikey on that Winston, very prolific Winston player. King can play that Echo. Vision can play Ashe. It's something that I would actually be very worried about on the other side between Lukewarm and Boat. Boat, I think, can also play the Echo. We saw Boat being able to play that in previous matchups so far. Lukewarm, I think, is probably pretty decent at the hit scan role as well. So I think this is going to be a matchup that does come down to a lot of that tank matchup, because we've seen Infected be very good on the Winston as well. And going up against Mikey, I think, is another beast entirely, because I think you can make an argument that Mikey is potentially the best Winston player that we do have right now in Contenders, especially given his history, given how well he's played it every time he's come in. But I think that this is a matchup that will really come down to that DPS role. And I think it also is going to be able to take a little bit of pressure off of Tree, because I think the supports, it's a lot easier, I think, on a map like this, because you have a lot of high ground to play around with. You can play a little bit more safely. I think it's probably going to be Ana, if I had to guess, what Tree is going to play on this map, and then Vega will be opting in for the break. So we'll see how that ends up working out, because I think that, Tree, I don't want to really criticize Tree at all, because I think that it's just very hard to kind of just jump into that support role, even though we've seen things like that tank role. So it's going to take a little bit of time for Tree to really adjust and marinate into playing that support.
Yeah, it's too premature. We got to get some time. You got to get some reps. You got to get the synergy and understanding of that role. Again, yes, the tank one was an interesting one that we got to see on New Queen Street, but now we're looking to really have Tree fulfill in this role for an extended period of time moving forward, and most likely going to be leading into the playoffs with that time that they do have, as we are getting confirmation of which side each of these are going to be on. It looks like it's going to be Saints on the attack first, where we do have O3 on the defense. So we will be able to see where that bar is set specifically for Saints on this aggression, and how they'll be able to fend off against this defensive side, because Neutral is another one that I really keep a watchful eye out for, because their play has been so stellar over the last couple of weeks, and what they've just been able to do single-handedly with this on.
Yeah, I think that Neutral, I think I remember it was against Afterlife or something? Or no, Worldwide.
Worldwide. It was Worldwide.
I think it was literally just Neutral versus the world, and he was able to just completely melt teams with Ana.
Yes.
Specifically with the nades and things like that, and having that impact is an incredibly important thing. I think when you look at Ana's in this current meta, right? Anti-nade, sleep, so effective against a lot of the heroes that we see. I mean, we've seen, I think, 2 sleep pulse bombs already, and stuff like that. So I think that, when we see an Ana player pop off that much, I don't think we've seen Neutral be as prolific as he was back when it was against Worldwide. But I think that there is that possibility that you always have to keep in the back of your mind that Neutral is someone that needs to be focused out on. And Saints actually switching things up. And again, I like this too, bring in this type of composition, right? Because I think that this composition is playing to your strengths when you have a little bit of a deficit, right? If you just mirror this, there's potential you lose. So bring Tree on the Kiriko and bring Vega, and everyone plays on their comfort, and they immediately evaporate O3 Splash's background.
3, 2, 1, go. And to be fair, you and I have seen Vision on this Reaper and has done significant work with it as well.
I mean, I think it was last year at the end of the year in Run It Back, where Vision, I think for wasn't playing Reaper the entirety of the Grand Finals composition, and then literally 2 days before the Grand Finals, they're just like, okay, Vision, you want to play Reaper? Vision says yes, and is probably one of the smartest Reapers and best Reapers we have just in that 2-day period. So this is something that, again, I love that Saints are just playing to their comfort here. They're not opting to handshake. They know they have this, switching team dynamics, so they're just saying, hey, we'll play to our comforts, and we're totally fine with that. And they have a really good start to this map already.
And they really catch O3 Splash off guard with how quickly they dive into this. And then there's Tree, with, like you mentioned, the damage profile that Kiriko brings to this, getting that one shot right onto Lukewarm instantly opens up space here for them to keep gaining distance.
See, I mean, Mikey getting a little bit too aggressive there, but it's traded back in for King, and Vision is just peppering away at Infected here. And I love this Reaper pick in particular because of the fact that if Infected wants to go a little bit aggressive, he's going to have to be worried about that Reaper just hitting those Hellfire shotguns in the face. But with King going down, looks like Saints are going to have to make a little bit of a retreat here, and O3 Splash stop the bleeding just a little bit. Going to be that Ana Nano available to them, can throw that on Infected or throw it on Boat to be able to just, you know, pop open a fight as much as they would like, especially with Duplicate on Boat. You have a lot of room to work with here.
And Lukewarm looking in for that flanking angle, especially because the Pulse Bomb is almost available, now active, and hoping to get this Death Blossom as well for Boat. Tree and Vision already taking down the supports, though, is significant. Can O3 Splash turn this back, though? That's the real question. There have been so many sent back to spawn, fighting under this archway. The payload not moving at all, wanting to dominate this fight before heading back to the objective. The Duplicate now for King onto the Winston doesn't gain any value here, but it at least forces back O3 Splash.
I mean, O3 Splash committed a lot to that too, and they were just able to basically weather the storm a little bit here. Mikey still has the Primal Rage available to him. Nano or Anti hits onto 2, no secure kills just yet.
You can see Lukewarm almost wanted to go in with that Pulse Bomb since both were hit from it, but decides otherwise, looking for another opportunity. Tree in the sights, can't quite get the damage necessary with that Pulse Bomb coming in on top of the sound barrier, so Mikey a little bit more vulnerable, but unfortunately it's got the Primal Rage as well, despite the damage that they've been pumping into him. And now, with only 3 minutes and 25 seconds, they're looking to reach this next checkpoint and balloon their time bank as they're forcing away the last few of O3 Splash chasing down Infected.
Yeah, and I mean, this is great patience from Vision here, just not using that Death Blossom, keeping it for these next couple of fights, because I think that Saints really want to snowball, and just the aggression that O3 Splash are going up against is too much for them right now. Saints are being super aggressive. You saw that one rotation where they went all the way basically to this corridor when they were at second. It was just so good as how easily they're rolling over this team of O3 Splash, who really have been able to stop the bleeding just once, but beyond that, when Saints are just going as a 5-man here, they're looking so clean.
Yeah, the recklessness and tempo that has been continuing to be brought to the start of these fights is really challenging for O3. The rail shot onto Vega is something that they can start looking to, though. Everyone so far forward is looking for the advantage to counteract O3, but Lukewarm gets a nice 2-piece as well, and they will finally shut down all of Saints and look to hold in this archway.
Yeah, this time the aggression doesn't pay off as much as they would have liked, I think, right there. O3 Splash, especially from Boat there. The fact that on the Sojourn you can get a couple of these like mid-fight picks that are really impactful, like taking down Vega, meaning that there isn't that Lucio available, and finally Saints are going to start switching things up a little bit, going over a more standard, or standard composition that we call on this map. But for what they've gotten off of that first composition, I mean, 3.5 minutes still in their bank, they're going to get another ultimate rotation, and Lukewarm is down, so that means it's a 4v5.
Yep. You can see Infected about to get blown up, does just escape, has to force the Primal, though doesn't feel comfortable threading that needle any longer as Deco picked up on the opposing side. Mikey aggressing forward, getting even closer to that Primal Rage as well so they can utilize it, juggling away. They don't even need it, though. Neutral and Deco have been brought back to spawn, finally getting back online here to give some coverage with those health packs and going to have the rally. O3 Splash in a very difficult position with 2 meters to go. Is it going to be enough to give protection to the remaining few of O3 so that they can combat back against this? Mikey hit by the bio and slept, but still has a massive health pool from the Primal Rage that was active, so they can just force back the remaining few. The adjustment now for King onto the Sombra, with Vision getting 2 again here, gives them so much opportunity to complete this with a significant amount of time, but they can't quite get the remaining. And now it's Lukewarm eliminated. You see this focus onto neutral, and that is a round completion with 2:31 on the clock.
Yeah, and this is what I talked about a little bit with kind of the difference between like having Falson and having Mikey in when they can play the Winston comp. That just felt like fighter pilot-esque for a lot of that map, right? Where it's just Saints as a 5-man just having these very aggressive dives, and even though they're trading sometimes like 2 for 2, 3 for 2, things like that, the fact that they're creating that much space and forcing out ultimates from O3 Splash really hinders O3 Splash's ability to like weather the storm a lot of the time. And I think that was something that O3 Splash wasn't necessarily ready for, this kind of intense aggression that coming out from this Saints roster, because it's not something that we see like too often. That composition, you know, Kiriko Lucio hasn't really been meta for a very long time. It's fallen off significantly with the rise of Brig, with the rise of Ana, and I think this is a great decision from Saints again to kind of just like play to their strengths, and it caught O3 Splash off guard 100%. Now it's a little bit more difficult because it's harder to play those style of compositions on the defensive end, but still, I mean, they were able to cap and win those last couple of fights with this composition. So for Saints, I mean, we said it was going to take a little bit of time for them to be able to figure out this like new dynamic in their roster, and at least so far on their attack, looked pretty decent.
Yeah, and there's so much anchoring on Vision and Lukewarm because they've had some really, really impactful change-ups in the way that these fights are going, finding those eliminations onto the supports and the synergy between both Infected and Mikey. So as we take the swap of sides, I'm looking to see how O3 Splash are going to combat against it and how Saints defensively are able to hold and potentially dwindle a massive time bank off this.
Oh, and actually, interestingly enough, we're going to be seeing Deco on the Mercy here, giving the pocket over to Boat. So, that is going to be something that's a little bit of an interesting dynamic. Yes, you're losing the Brig and the ability to kind of have some utility, but also it lets Boat have a lot of ability to kill those backline members and assassinate really aggressively. As Vision is taken down by neutral, that's not a good way to start this out on the defensive end for Saints.
And you can see Infected is trying to zone back both supports up top in that choke point to find value elsewhere, since they are having to more so rely on each other. Nice sleep, though, denying Infected pushing forward, with Saints looking to regroup defensively. It's already going to be 2, almost 3 ticks, because O3 Splash has really dominated and controlled this space despite the high ground being obtained from Saints. Nice sticky bombs, focusing beam, beautiful healing from the supports to keep King alive. And look at how much chase is happening with Boat wanting to secure that elimination, and that damage boost from the Mercy is really starting to come to the forefront of this, allowing them to have 5 minutes and 20 seconds going into the street space.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too overwhelming, because if those fights are like being elongated as much as they were in that scenario, like it's always going to favor the team with that Mercy pocket, because Boat is just going to be able to continuously farm, and there isn't going to really be a way for the Saints to stop them, because King, you know, to his credit, can't really go and duel with an Echo like that, because he'll just instantly lose because of that pocket. So this makes it very difficult for Saints to be able to hold the line, as we're going to be seeing Vision actually moving over to the Sombra, just trying to offer a little bit more utility.
Boat instantly goes onto the duplicate of the Sombra, pushing forward the damage boost once again, continuing to just deal the damage. The EMP is going to come in with the translocate just around the corner. There's no significant follow-up initially. It's really only Vision who's locked down and brought to the spawn, and now this is again more space obtainable for O3.
We'll see how O3 Splash want to play this next fight. There is going to be that nano boost available, sustainability as well from Infected with that Primal Rage, and look at the aggressive positioning of O3 Splash right here. Lukewarm gets taken down low, cannot afford to die.
Nice recall. Infected slept once again with the nano. Beautiful play. Saints now defensively are finally able to dismantle Deco and Boat on this duo high ground play, and will be able to stop this, as we saw before on the reverse side.
Yeah, and this is also one of the scariest parts, I think, to be stopped, because you don't have really a semblance of a respawn advantage at this point if you are O3 Splash, and you have to kind of make this long walk all the way to where the card is at this point. And it's going to be even scarier because Vision switching over to that Sombra now has been able to accrue that EMP, and EMP is going to do wonders here, especially with O3 Splash attacking into them. And even if Infected uses this Primal Rage, EMP is going to chew through a lot of that health.
You can see Mikey's just trying to get rid of Lukewarm, forcing the recall out, so Lukewarm has to play a little bit more defensively. Nice reposition back onto the supports. The shield is there to deny any incoming damage for the moment, but the Bionade makes it much more critical for Mikey, who does pop the Primal in time. Does not get focused down. Sleep Dart only lasts for a brief second, since the insistent tri-shot damage comes in from Boat. But Mikey hanging on by a thread as Lukewarm and Deco work their wonders to eliminate 2 on the defense.
Yeah, with Tree going down, there's no way that Saints can hold on to this, because they just completely lack the healing. Vega is not enough to be able to sustain Mikey going down that low, and that's going to be a point cap here for O3 Splash, who starting to really step it up here on this offensive end. 4 minutes in their bank, being able to move forward here into third, and they might end up eclipsing the amount of time that Saints had if they're continuing able to roll this well.
Nice shots into Vision on the back with a Sombra. Stick comes in. Mikey in the barrier. Solo. Nano comes in quickly from Tree, but as they do so, both sweeps in to get a nice elimination. Now, once again, we find all of the weight resting on Vega's shoulders to try and survive through this. Even with the respawn advantage, O3 Splash is making lightning fast work of this.
Yeah, I mean, they're just completely overwhelming them, and I wonder if Saints are going to make any swaps going into this last defense here, because it feels like the DPS duo just currently isn't working out. Boat has just been left really on their own to be able to do whatever he wants in the air. Vision getting close towards that EMP. They need to be able to keep Vision alive long enough to get that up.
Not quite ready for that drop down from Infected. They round the outer door, but there is a try shot and the sticky bomb coming in onto Mikey. Boat boosted, continuing to play forward, seeing what they can get. Nice Bionade onto 3. That's huge from Tree. Lukewarm eliminated, and it's only going to be a 5 versus 4, but Pico makes it an even score. 4 for 4 dropping in. Boat goes for the shots, but is covered by Vega. Again, the synergy between Tree and Vega coming out big right now to keep Saints alive on the defense and deny O3 from completion.
Yeah, I mean, Saints need to take a deep breath right now, and O3 Splash are not going to be able to get more time than Saints did, so for O3 Splash, I mean, they're going to get at least one more ult rotation with how much time they have left here, but Saints did a really good job on the defense, specifically Tree had, hit that anti, then hit that sleep, really big in terms of being able to stall, but Boat is coming up on a duplicate, which he's been very scary with them so far, and I mean, a little bit worried about how Mikey's going to navigate these fights. There's a nice hack. Vision, I mean, doesn't really get a lot out of it, right? He has to translocate almost immediately, so it doesn't even farm any charge.
Yeah, because Lukewarm was right there to give the assistance as the hack comes in, so it's not a safe play to play forward like that. So nullifying that completely gives more opportunity now for Boat to get to this duplicate. Going onto the Ana, they have a sufficient amount. Oh, the stick doesn't land. It just clips the corner. So it is not a guaranteed elimination onto Tree, which would have been vital because the nano boost is available. Now, an attempted sleep. It goes wide. The jungle into the corner. Can't quite keep him away from the spawn, so they actually recover into this with a focusing beam now onto Mikey, eliminating that tank on the defense. Final few meters to go. They're closing it in, then coming for the contest. Vision, along with King, are there to buy time, the respawn advantage, in addition to Vega's rally. Everything lines up, and once again, Saints are able to hold the line. Oh no! No, they got off it. King was not close enough to keep it contested.
Bad. Oh, put up the sign, Jay. Put up the sign. Oh, that's a bad one. Yo. That's a really bad one.
Oh, no.
They were going to get that defense, too. Yeah. They actually had a very good chance of being able to defend with, I think it was like a minute and 30 seconds left. They won that fight completely. That's an absolute Charles the Ninth. That was brutal.
Now see, if we don't get a map 5, we've already hit our quota today, Kenobi.
That was E9. That was really unfortunate.
Yeah, and you could see it because King was right there on the edge, but just ever so slightly steps too far. Oh, doesn't get there in time. It was so close. Oh, they even...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Can I join the lobby just to type that in there? I'm sorry. That's so bad. I'm so mean.
That's so brutal. They had that. That was Saints' fight. Yeah, completely.
It really was.
It was literally just Boat floating to the point and getting that last little bit of meterage.
Just
that
slow descent.
Slow float down to get that ending pick, or ending push over the line. But O3 Splash, I mean, they're lucky that they get another chance at this, and the way that the first offense went, they definitely have a potential to be able to just overwhelm completely Saints, especially with the bring back in the Mercy now. I wonder how Saints are going to be able to play against this, because again, just the amount of upfront damage that you bring with Boat here, King is not going to be able to deal with this, and Mikey has to play so safely, because if he steps out of line once, he will get melted by this damage boost.
And you can just see how Saints are really playing cautiously. A high ground, the shield denies the incoming fire. Vision barely gets topped up. Stellar job again from the support line from Saints, recovering as the focusing beam doesn't actually hit pay dirt here. The health value was too high and the distance was too far. As Boat gets overwhelmed and is shut down, King and Vision play the patient game and then find the window of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that was so perfectly played compared to what they did in that last one, right? Where last time they tried to have King be very aggressive and duel out, but this time they basically just say, okay, we're going to play patient. As soon as that As soon as the focusing beam is down, that's our moment to go in. Mikey and King do a great job on that dive, and now with just 30 seconds left, O3 Splash is the last chance that they're going to have. King and Vision so close towards their DPS ultimates. Those are going to be big.
We'll see how Boat is able to fend on the high ground again. Very quickly addressed for the moment. Bionade lands from neutral in the back. Mikey just going to wait it out, shrug it off. As the TVT occurs up top, Vision forcing out the recall has the advantage just ever so slightly as Lukewarm gets picked up by Vega. A second pick from up top. Boat not ready for it. The whole bomb sticks mid-air! Oh my goodness, that was just salt in the wound. Vision putting on a show here right at the end as a team kill comes through. Swap of sides, and now O3 Splash is getting a little rattled.
Dude, that was the sickest layup pulse bomb I've ever seen right there from Vision. Just throwing it up into the cup, hitting that Mercy in the air. And a nice defense. Again, I love the adaptation where it's kind of like Saints know exactly what's going to be happening with O3 Splash. They're going to bring out the Mercy, so they just play patient, really wait for Boat to be potentially a little bit too over-aggressive, which is exactly what happens, and then they're able to win this one. And
layup?
So nice. Oh, so good right there.
So good. I think that one with you and I had that once happen where it was a triple dash on Watchpoint Gibraltar, I think in Collegiate. It was like the other time where we got a clean shot like that. God, that was years ago, I think. That's instantly what I remember from forever ago. Let's not talk about that. As we're gonna head into this next one, just makes me feel like I'm a lot older. This is drawable though. O3 Splash.
Okay, don't put it out there. Okay, don't put it out there. Like our production people can say it in chat, in like our production chat, but like if we put it out into the ether, it'll happen.
I didn't say anything.
We literally have video. We have audio evidence.
No.
Okay, well.
2 minutes and 31 seconds here. Saints were able to make quick work as well going into this with this Reaper play previously, and I think they are more than capable of doing so again, only needing to yield 1 tick out of 3. As there's an early hack already onto King!
That's pretty not great that happens as easily as that did, but I think that the thing about this composition from Saints is that O3 Splash, they don't have a lot of time to work with on the defensive end, and at least Saints are going to get at least 1 ultimate rotation with this. So Saints can play this a little bit slowly if they'd like here. They just need to make sure that what happened with Boat earlier just doesn't happen again, right? They can't just get 1 clipped in the neutral right here because that's going to take even more time away. They want to be aggressive.
Diving quickly onto it. Saints are getting routed very quickly, but they actually managed to weather the onslaught that came from O3 Splash in this chase. Saints play this beautifully, and my utterance of drawable shall not come to fruition as they are able to take this with only 1 remaining, the translocate off the point, and we will see Saints be able to take this, making it a 1-to-1 map score.
I thought you said you didn't say anything, so which one is it?
See, now I'm gonna say it because it didn't happen, so I can come clean.
You're gaslighting me. That's
I am not.
Okay.
I am only lighting the gas. I am not gaslighting.
I see. But I think full credit to Saints here for coming in on this Numbani pick. We talked about it a little bit before. Like the map is how this team would look a little bit different with Mikey in the lineup, obviously bringing that Winston to the table. But I think it was really just that decision making from Saints to be able to play more to their strengths, especially on the offensive end, right? Bringing out that composition that's not really something that we've seen a lot of, and the coordination still felt like it was there between the entirety of the team, right? That was something that I was kind of wondering how that would act with the change in dynamic with the team, but the coordination still seems to be like really on point with that team, and that's something that you can expect from a team who's had kind of this amount of time together, who's played together for so long. So even if you're switching something like Tree going over to that support role, you still have that ability as a unit to move forward. And then I think that I think they probably could have, honestly, without the C9, would have defended at the very end there. So elongated a little bit to get people some skins, but we're at 1-to-1 right now. And I think that going forward, I wonder, do we continue to see Mikey? Is there going to be a map where we have to see maybe False come back in? And how's that going to look? Because I think now that with O3 Splash being able to pick the map, they could just go somewhere where this composition really isn't going to be able to thrive at all.
Yeah, and we'll see after we head to a short break. So don't go anywhere because we'll be back in just a moment, my friends.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
Welcome back, my friends. We've already checked off our list today for having a C9, and we're still in a prime position for us to have a map 5. So we might be able to actually generate both for you watching out there today, getting even more time for skins. You know, we mentioned it earlier, gave a little bit extra 3-4 minutes because of that take, swapping sides, but now we're going to be going into another map, Kenobi, and it's going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar, what we've been seeing a lot more recently, and just been getting a really wide variety of things that have come to fruition here, even not only just within Contenders, but the realm of Overwatch League as well.
Yeah, and this is a map that I actually really enjoy kind of how this map plays out, especially with, like, I mean, I'm good with any map that, like, really lets me see Winston more so than anything else. I know there's a lot of, like, controversy about how much Winston there is, but, like, I still like Winston. I like dive compositions in general. And this is another map where it's like, it's very much a Winston style of map because high ground is so important, right? To be able to control that high ground, whether it's on first, on second as well, being able to control the ship. Very, very important. This is a map though that we will see probably like some long range hit scan. I think that like Ashe is something that we see a lot here. Echo still probably could see some play. We've seen people pilot it. It is like you have to play a little bit more safely with it. But there's also that possibility that it just becomes a tracer and then like a long range hit scan style of composition. And as always, like double flanker could still just always work. So I think this will be interesting to see kind of how both these teams opt into a map like this, because of the fact that you do have that ability to play a lot of variations of things. But I think that with Vision in the lineup, I feel like I want to see hit scan. I want to see long range. I want to see Ashe or like Widowmaker, stuff like that.
Hanzo
Hanzo.
We've been we've been seeing a lot of Hanzo, especially when it comes to that second portion inside the docking bay. I mean, it's pretty crazy as a whole, and Vision we know can just unleash on that hero in and of itself. So, but there is a variety, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to come out for this map specifically. And O3 Splash again, getting a little bit more of a lucky opportunity when it came to Numbani, since it was looking more so that Saints could have easily closed that out with that slight little mishap. But we'll disregard that because this is a new map, and Gibraltar does have so much, opportunity, especially when we talk about the initial point when it comes to a lot of this high ground. There's so much denial that you get onto the Winston with the Brigitte, with the, variety of sleeps that can come through. There's a lot of value defending on that initial point. And if you can run the clock quite a bit there, it really helps you in the long run going into that docking bay section.
Yeah, I mean, this is a map that we usually don't see completed that much. I think we saw...
we got third point. We got third point.
Third point, Gibraltar. Mm-hmm. I think we did see a completion as well at one point, but I think that this is a map where it's like it usually comes down to those first 2 points, and then like if you can get past second point, specifically with the spaceship is like where attacks go to die, right? Like if you can get stuck there so easily, and just like that, just the amount of time it takes to get back into that point, so difficult, right? And being able to just it's a long walk of shame once you lose fights to get back there. You don't have any semblance of a respawn advantage, so it's very difficult to maneuver out of those. But it's a little bit easier now with the changes to this map that we had, which, by the way, really do love kind of the rework that they did to this map because of the fact that it was so even more difficult.
Yeah.
Back when it was the old Gibraltar, but now in this Gibraltar, it's a little bit easier to kind of make your way into second point through those doors because you have those other options.
And we will have, once again, Saints on the attack first, while we do have O3 Splash on the defense. I'm looking for... Oh, please do it. I know, King, make me happy. As we're probably not going to see it, but defensively, going back to the tried and true, lukewarm on this Hanzo, so we're keeping a watchful eye on the type of pick potential that can come through and seeing if those one-shot, one-hit potentials can land for them.
And I mean, if Saints are going to come out on this composition, that just tells me that it's aggressive.
Yeah.
We're going aggro here. Deco and neutral have to play so carefully, because if you get dove on by 4 members like this, you need to come correct and be able to keep yourselves alive, or else they will just run through you, especially with King on that Genji, being able to get a lot of those dash resets. Vision here as well, going in onto that Reaper. So it's no longer a chess game whatsoever from Saints. They're just playing, again, towards their comfort. They're going to make Infected's life miserable, because if Infected ever wants to come onto this cart, Vision is just here with the Reaper, continuously pumping in damage, and Infected can't get done.
Yeah, they will eviscerate Infected. Needs to get out. But the healers are keeping him topped up quite well. Stellar job defensively from O3 Splash as this payload continues to move forward. It's really only Infected being the singular member to drop down to keep it contested, because Boat, the second that they come in, look at how easily they're forced back out of it.
And Boat has to also respect Tree on the Kiriko, because if Boat gets hit once by a random kunai or something like that, it's very easy for King to just hit that dash reset and go in. And now this rotation from Saints, they're going to go behind and see if they can execute a dive onto the high ground.
Yep, get the reposition. Nice responsiveness though from O3 Splash. They draw back ever so slightly. Support's still covered for the moment. Barrier active to try and deny and get those shots necessary as King comes in, cleaning up. And this is where there's some recovery tactics from O3 Splash defensively and actually turn a little bit around, but there's still contention onto this cart.
Oh, Boat's actually here. Oh my god, King is just slicing and dicing right now on this Genji. We saw it last week. King on this Genji is nothing to be trifled with, but with all those picks that went back and forth, it is going to have to be a little bit of a retreat here for Saints. King getting jumped on by that Winston, but Dragon Blade is available for King here.
You can see Infected being just chunked as Vision drops in. Can't quite escape though for the moment. Doesn't have the defensive necessary, so Infected able to deny them from continuing to dominate on that front line. And O3 Splash able to hold on for the moment, but the Blade is active. The rally to counteract it, but the slash damage is just far too superior and will be able to eliminate the support. Just under 3 meters to go, and Saints are now looking to rally back into this quickly.
These picks are going back and forth, but Lukewarm is finally able to take down King. And I mean, the thing about the Saints composition is they need to win these fights very convincingly, right? And one of the things that like the Winston's really good at, and Infected has been really good at throughout the entirety of this series, is like those counter dives where if Saints are going to be going that aggressive into the backline, Infected has done a really good job of just counter diving and making sure that at least they're trading, you know, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, things like that. And now Saints again going for an aggressive dive onto that high ground with the Kitsune Rush.
Deco cannot survive the swiftness that is Saints. We've got a big pulse bomb though onto both supports, making this viable for O3 Splash to hold on to. The Primal Rage from Infected cycling back to the point, but needs to be very cognizant of where Vision is, who has the Death Blossom. It is
0.9.
Oh my goodness, they come back onto it to contest it. They're still holding on, but Saints are being able to rally back into this because they are able to have such swift, mobile heroes to give that reinforcement. Boat goes down. They finally reach this checkpoint with 3 minutes and 15 to go.
That was so close. I felt like when Boat hit that pulse bomb, right, that was the moment where potentially they could have brought that one back, especially on both supports like this, but Saints were able to survive just a little bit long, especially with the 2 ultimates, specifically from Vision and Mikey being able to zone the rest of them off the cart, create that time for Tree and Vega to get back onto the point, and now Saints will switch it up a little bit, go over to the more standard support line, but also bring Vision here on this long-range hit game like I was talking about, bringing the Ash.
And I'm liking to see it as we enter into this next phase. Infected still playing those catwalks very, very religiously to make sure that they are not going to get overwhelmed and wait for that healing to come in from neutral from a distance. King keeping tabs, at least for now. Bionade lands. Vega needs to be careful. Boat's also making some quick work of those health values down below, but Vision gets the counter. The Pulse Bomb actually tossed in just before they're eliminated, so O3 Splash is able to turn this around since the damage has been nullified.
And this is where it becomes a little bit scary for Saints, especially because now you have Neutral, who just has control of high ground. And if there's one thing we know about Neutral's Ana, is that if Neutral is left on high ground alone like this, anti-nades are going to be so impactful. And there you saw one hits directly onto Vega. Vega has to get out of dodge because they're anti. That means he's not able to get there and heal Tree. So Tree ends up going down. It just completely falls apart for Saints on that offense. There's a great nano and another anti, but it's not followed up on.
Yeah, there's so much damage from Infected with that nano boost in a tight room. Makes it so easy for O3 Splash to completely eradicate them.
This is, again, it's going to be a very scary position for Saints to be able to move through this one, or try to be able to move through this one, as Mikey, just barely able to survive. And that's actually going to give Tree that nano. That's why doesn't get any value there.
No, I thought Infected was a little bit lower in health value, but gets topped up quickly from both. So the completely just denies the pulse bomb.
I was like, why is the health bar that high? It didn't feel like it should have been.
Oh my goodness, Tree though, with the assist on the alley-oop, as you've got Mikey diving even further forward with a melee attack onto Lukewarm and juggling for days onto neutral. That buys them some great space and opens this up for positional advantage.
Mikey is so good at Winston, bro. Like, people are gonna be like, oh man, that was a nano. Like, oh, I could have done that. But like, the fact that he was able to one-shot Deco by him, like, on that initial jump, then get the secondary jump onto Lukewarm, get that one shot as well, and then juggle neutral to Kingdom Come all the way back to spawn. Like, that was just really, really great Winston mechanics coming in from Mikey. And now Saints have a little bit of room to work with, but not a lot of time, only 30 seconds.
Yeah, they have definitely some room, but the time is not in their favor. It's King down below, harassing Boat, a couple of dashes to keep their distance. Nice reposition up top. Rally is active. Shield blocking the incoming fire, but Tree gets the pickup onto Lukewarm, which is absolutely vital. The Dragon Strike not available to divide and conquer. Mikey gets another round of 2 on the supports. And this, for 30 seconds remaining, they use every second to their maximum potential.
Yeah, now, I mean, you're probably just wiping your sweat off your brow a little bit. Wait, the sleep happened.
Oh, no!
Oh, you can, okay. No. I was wondering, I was like, is there a way that Lukewarm ends up going down there? But no, make sure they TP out of that one, as Saints do get another minute and 30 seconds on their bank to move forward here. I just love it when Winstons kind of just sit in front of each other and just zap each other, and it's just like, all right, we're here.
I'm tickling you and you're tickling me. Yeah, let's have fun. Ticklefy. As you see, Infected dive up top now with, oh my goodness, Bionade lands onto 2 from neutral. That's what we like to see from neutral. Those Bionades hitting pay dirt with now only 50 seconds to go for Saints.
Just neutral things there. And I mean, for O3 Splash, I like that they bring finally Lukewarm onto this Ashe. You know, having a way to combat a little bit with Vision's sightline also brings some utility alongside with the Dynamite. I think this is a really great decision. But Saints coming back in, I mean, they're close to Nano. Primal Rage is also available from Mikey relatively soon. And this is the last chance that this team is going to have here on this offense. And with Mikey with the Primal Rages so far, you're going to be looking at neutral, potentially find a way to hit a sleep and negate the value that's going to be coming from it.
King lurking in the distance, does get topped up. Nice recovery from the support line again. Only 2, soon to be 3 ultimates available. Nano onto Mikey, that'll guarantee the generation for the Primal Rage. Can't quite eliminate Deco just yet, as a nice whip shot gives him space, hides behind the box. Primal Rage active, looks for the juggle, can't quite get close enough to bring them to the opposing side, but locks them into the room, and the Pulse Bomb finds so much value. They were so worried about getting juggled into the corner. The Pulse Bomb comes in from a distance and lands. Now with the overtime active, the payload just meters away. Infected onto the point, has the Primal Rage to knock them back. King getting juggled around, same thing with Vega. There has the spawn potential though from O3 to get back into this. Infected needs to get topped back up, cycles back, they're pushing onto the point. Overtime still continuing to commence with 5 meters to go. Vega harassed, eliminated, Infected back on the point. Bob gives that extra member for not only contention, but the extra damage boost with Infected now coming in tenfold. Bob gets the side pickup as well. They actually deny Saints from reaching completion. What a beautiful recovery here from O3.
Yeah, I thought Saints had that, especially with Mikey getting that Primal Rage, juggling 4 people into that corridor for that Pulse Bomb from King to get to. If that had gotten more, I think there was definitely a way that Saints are able to complete that, but with Infected being able to stay alive and just create so much time with that Primal Rage, just stay alive, stay on cart, get the rest of the members out who had ultimates to be able to sustain through and continue to stall. Really, really well played from O3 Splash's tank there, and it's good to see because Infected is someone who, like, we remember coming in, you know, back on Trick Room, was very much this Hammond player. The Winston seems to have been something that Infected has worked on and really gotten a lot better at recently. And going to get someone like Mikey, who's playing as well as he is, it's really, really great to see.
Yeah, big props. The depth of understanding is for sure elevated since we've seen them on that role earlier. That neutral Bionate too, just coming in every once in a while, making sure that it really causes a problem. And also the fact that they get Bob at the end there to keep cart contested gives them so much more wiggle room to start changing where their focus is instead of just the payload. It's like that insurance policy of saying, all right, we don't have to worry about this for right now. Let's go find our target.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing about, you know, creating that stall specifically is like the time that it created, right? That was the big thing, where it's because they don't get back into that if there isn't that time created by Infected to not only stall the cart, but get everyone those ultimates, right? Because they had such an elongated fight there, because there was a very real possibility that they just end that with like 90%, 95% on their ultimates, and they, you know, have to reset and get full capped here. But as Saints go on the defensive end here, sticking with Vision on this Ashe. Lukewarm, though, on the Hanzo. So one of the things in the difference is that Hanzo does have that one-shot potential, but doesn't have the same amount of utility as the Ashe does in that AoE. So it's going to be something that Vision has a little bit over Lukewarm, but Lukewarm could just instantly, with one shot, completely change a fight. That was a fantastic ante from Tree at the start of that, directly onto Deco, comboed along with that dive from Mikey. Mikey's also going to be able to get out of this, so a great start for Saints here on this defensive end.
And now you can see the stragglers underneath. Boat at this point just accepts their fate, has to go back to the drawing board. Saints still feeling really good as they've already got a minute off the clock.
And I think one of the things about the Hanzo as well, it's very much a feast or famine type hero, where it's like you need to hit, like, if you're not hitting shots, you're not really like playing the hero to the maximum potential, right? Lukewarm is also being very heavily focused down a lot of the times. I'm looking at Lukewarm, health bar is always below 50% every time they're peaking, so Saints are doing a great job of holding these sightlines away from them.
Yeah, each time I've gasped quite a bit to be surprised at how low the health value is, so Lukewarm really being nullified for the moment. King down below 5 HP, gets the recall out in time, and you can just see Boat fleeing for their life down underneath to get that health pack near the car wash. Vision in the defensive position over towards the server room, sticking close to the supports. Boat once again hyper harassed, and again always having to play defensively. King is consistently getting the better end of this, but Lukewarm finally hits a target and not forced away. And with Tree eliminated, Vega again has so much on their shoulders to have to work with. Mikey really has no ability to get topped up here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way. I think there's going to be a potential for a recontest if they're able to keep Mikey alive, which they should be able to do with Tree respawning soon. King is alive, but I go down here in that TVT, especially with the Winston trying to collapse onto them. But actually, King is able to live long enough, and now they're back on the point.
Neutral shuts down King. There's a follow-up onto Tree. The second they show their face, the Nano did come out here for Mikey, who does generate the Primal Rage, but as we continue to be on Lukewarm's POV, it is free-firing the entire time, just landing these shots onto the big man as they continue to juggle about. Boat secures the support. Infected comes in again, and this will be 0-3 splashing. I mean, we just seeing Lukewarm all day.
Aim trainer POV. It's just aim trainer POV. It's like Lukewarm. Everyone else was playing playing Overwatch there. Lukewarm's just playing a mini game aim trainer right there. Like that, Lukewarm's just on the high ground, just being like, okay, I just have to sit here, hit a couple of shots, and I'll be totally fine. And the scary thing about that is Saints committed to win that fight and committed quite a bit to it. They had to use the Primal Rage, had to use the Nano and the Rally, so they're a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of that macro. But with King being able to hit that one clip onto neutral, that might be a way for the Saints team to stop the bleeding. It looks like they might.
Ooh, reposition quickly with the coach gun so they can get into that position for a nice takedown assistance with Vega onto Lukewarm and stem the bleeding here at this 4-door entry point, which again is so challenging to work through when you have the high ground advantage.
And it's also hard when you have something like Ashe on the other side, where Ashe can just throw dynamite into that doorway and just make your life completely miserable. Okay, Boat's just instantly taken out. Goodbye. I think one of the things that we've seen a lot throughout this defense from Saints so far is that King feels like running away with this TVT battle a lot of the time. Like, Boat is being hounded down by this Tracer play coming out from King.
And it's been a significant shift going into Watchpoint Gibraltar. It was a little bit more even, I would say, in the 2 previous maps, but this one specifically, Boat is always on the back foot. Now with Pulse Bomb available still, not yet needing to contribute it into this fight just yet, as the payload sticked around by both Infected and Boat. And again, just getting the better end of this. Boat has to play so defensively, and you can see Mikey with the Nano. Even though they're going to get slept, they still get value taking out Deco.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that I think when you have King, like, winning this Tracer battle so effectively, it gives so much room for Mikey to make these counter dives, because the thing about the Tracer here is that the Tracer would love to just kind of juggle around the cart and just be able to play it that way, not really have to fight necessarily, but because the Tracer isn't really winning the TVT, that forces Infected to be the one to get onto cart, and that just leaves Mikey to be like, great, I'll just dive your backline. There's nothing you can really do about that. So they're really benefiting off of King's Tracer wins right here.
Ooh, Boat! Once again low, but does get a very, very quick engagement onto King. And Infected with the juggle nicely eliminates Vision and rotates up the high ground to cause a lot of disruption to this support line. They have been completely surrounded, and an absolutely necessary win here for 0-3 Splash.
That's got to feel really good for Boat too, because Boat has been bullied by King a lot of the time, but there comes in with the one clip, and this is a very, I think, scary position for Saints to be in. They got to be able to get someone to contest the Pulse Bomb with, so maybe there's a chance for Saints to get back on.
Yeah, it wasn't close enough. Vision have about just under 100 HP remaining as the Pulse Bomb lands. The Dragon Strike from Lukewarm getting rid of Tree, and Infected again collapsing onto Vision. They have really started to make some massive headway after that initial fight win, but now 50 seconds to go. Boat gets the shutdown onto Mikey, and now that they no longer have this Winston to really body and keep presence on the point, it's so much on the shoulders of Tree again here. More than we've seen Vega before, and they can't quite do it. 5 meters to go. 0-3 Splash themselves looking to enter this final stage, to enter completion. They just have to eliminate the last few, and Saints are actually doing a stellar job running the clock here.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying their best to stall. You can see even the swap to the Doomfist. I would expect Mikey to go back to the Winston eventually, but Saints, I mean, it feels like it's another time where they just use a lot of ultimates in like a fight that was very difficult to win. Like, there was a chance maybe that you could bring it back when you're like losing that many members, or like using Rally, using Nano and things like that in a scenario where you're already down 2 members is very, very risky. Luckily, they take a lot of time off the clock, so there's only a minute and a half left, and essentially if Saints win one fight, they should be able to win this map. But look at Boat and Infected, they have ultimates, and Saints have nothing to work with here on this offensive.
Yeah, it's really all down to King to potentially get something quick enough here to contribute into that firepower that 0-3 has. Out underneath, though, looking for the pick. Beautiful stick onto Tree, but Tree very knowledgeable to jump off to not allow two others to get picked up with it. It could have been devastating. Still losing a support is not what you want to see, but the respawn advantage could be favorable to Saints, but they're being chipped away one by one, locking themselves into that room. There is still an opportunity to come back and contest this, though.
And I mean, the really way that the Saints can win this is they have to get Tree towards this Nano. This Nano needs to be able to get into this point, but here comes Infected with the Primal Rage.
Juggling them back, nice whip shot to keep their distance, so they're gonna juggle them into the point. Contesting now with Mikey. Nano Boost will generate that Primal Rage a lot more effectively. And if Vision also is able to get this Bob, that will see the same type of defensive hold, but Infected and Lukewarm gain both supports again. They are in a prime position to take it. They are able to force them back, and 0-3 Splash able to take this third map and find themselves on a match point.
And I think 0-3 Splash played this really well just from the perspective of being able to adapt towards like the back end. The second half, their offense was really good. I think bringing in Lukewarm on that Hanzo, yes, it took a little bit of time to like warm up, but that one-shot potential really started to hit Pater. And there was a lot of focus, I think, towards Tree in particular, right? There were a lot of times where Boat would go after Tree very aggressively in a lot of these scenarios, knowing that that is a potential weakness. And we even saw it in the fight before the last fight where that Pulse Bomb, Tree was kind of just like on the bridge waiting patiently for the rest of his team, and Boat comes in with a really nice Pulse Bomb, completely negates a lot of the value the Ana would have had. And 0-3 Splash are able to take another win here, taking us to a map 4. This is the Pulse Bomb I was talking about. Good heads-up play, you were right, for him to jump down, but
still,
overall, I think this was a really, great performance from 0-3 Splash in terms of being able to find kind of the target to dive on and dissect, and they did a great job doing that.
Well, and the big part of it, too, is the resilience that Boat had throughout that map, because Boat was so denied and stifled.
Yeah.
A majority of the introduction of that, and especially moving into the next phase outside of that docking bay. Once they're able to kind of work their way through that, they just bypass Vision, who almost gets that elimination, to then start snowballing. Boat gets this momentum back in. They're feeling very confident. They get more of these different angles that they can play, all leading up to that Pulse Bomb. Everything just starts to really work in their favor, and that's what you absolutely needed for 0-3 Splash as we are preparing to go into our next and potentially final map here for 0-3 to be able to shut this down. But Saints not going to go quietly, as we are, I believe, potentially going into Coliseum, still waiting on confirmation of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is where we go due to the way that Saints have been playing and with the methodology of their composition.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what map it is, because if it is Coliseum, that tells me that False is going to be playing, and then that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit, because that's just probably going to be a Ramatra more so than anything. Winston is, I think, viable on a map like this, but it's kind of fallen out of favor, because Ramatra is so good in these enclosed areas, and Annihilation is just way too strong. Vortex is also way too strong in those scenarios, so I think that that's something, if we do go to Coliseum, we have to be on the lookout for. But I think you were right about the Boat point, where Boat was getting heavily beaten by King a lot of the time. And I think Boat was just like, okay, kind of reset and said, I'm not just going to continuously take the Tracer duel anymore. I'm going to try and go for the back line. And I think that really helped a lot in terms of being able to push 0-3 Splash over the edge there, because it was just a lot of mental RAM for that backline to deal with. And with Boat being as good as Boat is, this is the person who got beat proper on the San Francisco, right? Run diffed proper, things like that. There is still that ability for Boat to be able to carry like he did on that Tracer role. King was doing his best to deny it, but once we kind of saw that shift from Boat focusing on the Tracer v Tracer, going over to the Tracer v backline, it kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, and Saints just weren't, I think, able to keep up with that adaptation before it was too late.
And you commented specifically on that pivotal point where it was not only the elimination that came through in the docking bay part of it, but it was the timing and the placement. Because once that payload started to turn that initial corner underneath the ship, and they did get those eliminations, they bypassed Vision, the adjustment from Infected afterwards to force back Vision on the high ground. They really didn't have a solid way to get back into it. And we saw those desperate swaps consistently coming through, the Doomfist, the Sombra, everything to really get back and just keep it contested. But it's really not only just about the eliminations, but the timing and placement that was so pivotal as well, that everything just really started to work in O3's favor so that they can get that final stretch and take the advantage to where Boat has this time to really play a little more patiently, look for that support line, find the value necessary. And because things start to get a little bit more hectic with only just over a minute worth of time playing on that catwalk, Boat, so receptive, takes advantage of it and allows them that secure.
Looks like we do have our... Oh, we don't actually. So we're going to just waiting potentially, got to make some swaps.
They're baiting us a little bit.
They're baiting us a little bit. Go around a little bit. But I think that like when we talk about, actually we do have the map, it looks like, from the map sent.
It's Coliseum.
So this is what I was thinking, where it was like, okay, it's going to be Coliseum. If it is Coliseum, that means to me that it is going to be False in the lineup, most likely, because I think that Mikey... like the Winston doesn't really have that much value here, and False is kind of the Ramatra player, I think, on this team. So that makes sense to me that we're going to be seeing that more so than anything else, as we are going to be seeing, False is going to be in here, coming in for Mikey. So expect a lot of Ramatra, potentially V Ramatra here is what I would think. I'm not sure if Infected or Calman's going to be in the lineup. We'll have to see. But this is going to look a little bit different. It's going to look a little bit probably more like Control rather than what we saw on the
we do have confirmation. So it is going to be an adjustment as well from O3 Splash. You can see that we will have Cowman being substituted back into this as we enter into the map. So again, we'll see that it's almost like that, like, what is it? It's like the face-offs for like UFC fighters where it's like like they go like chest to chest. They're just like, yeah, like that's gonna be Cowman or the weigh-in. That's what it is. Yeah. Where it's like False and Cowman be just like, what? What's up? Come on, like let's go. We going to Coliseum. We going to neutral. Who's gonna go? Come on.
It's funny that they both have Sigma as their
right
pictures, and like we're not seeing that hero at all, unless it's Circuit Royale. Which, by the way, I can't believe that there was a 7-6 Circuit Royale earlier in Overwatch. Like that was insane.
Right.
I never thought I would see that ever again after 2CP went away. But here we are with O3 Splash versus Saints. And again, this is like more of the Ramatra style of composition. I wonder what we'll see in terms of like the support line. I think it's probably going to be most likely like the Brig and the Ana, which to me is going to be interesting because I think that Bo did a great job of like affecting that back line. And I wonder, do we see an adjustment from either the DPS to kind of like help a little bit with that backline matchup, or are we going to like kind of put the faith in Tree into Vega, that kind of, now that they know what Boat is going to potentially do, they can like deal with it a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think the investment for understanding how Boat's been playing might be a little bit more favoring, and just also at this point allowing Tree to kind of take up this support role and saying, no, let me feel confident in this. I think because Tree's always been an extremely confident player. Like every time we've either talked to them or see them play, like they are really strong in their decision making and saying, no, like if this is something I want to do, they're going to do it tenfold. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the avenue that we take as we are entering into this map and seeing who is going to be able to take this. And again, O3 Splash finding themselves on a match point where they could, because of the facts that we did receive, it looks like that Pip actually did not manage to win this. So if O3 Splash is able to take this, that will put them in that number 1 seed spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of, changes that could happen today. It's all very close and together in terms of like what we're seeing with a lot of these teams going forward in terms of it being so close in NA in particular. So there's a lot to play for still with like the seeding and even just like figuring out who's going to be getting into playoffs.
Kenobi, 10 seconds before the podcast airs. Welcome, friends, as we are here on Coliseum. As it's both Rich Rat and Kenobi to bring you the excitement that is, a random topic of the day.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna get into favorite Pokemon territory. Who knows? But I mean, to be fair, we've seen teams that have kind of just like been like, screw it, we don't want to be like just sitting here for 2 minutes. We've seen players just be very aggressive on a map like this. So we'll see what these teams opt in for, as we're actually going to be seeing a little bit of difference in terms of the compositions. Neutral is going to be on the Baptiste, while Tree is sticking on the Ana. So the Baptiste offers a little bit more of that AoE healing, self-survivability with the immortality field, but Tree, really one good anti-nade here could be a difference maker.
And look at how swiftly Vision is able to get into the back line, going for the hack onto Cowman, forcing out Nemesis form already. hacked a second time with the translocate. It's drawn a lot of attention away, so there wasn't shielding, which gave an opportunity for King and others to find some chip damage before resetting back into the neutral. Nice presence of mind, though, to get back afterwards, forcing that translocate. Cowman having the positional advantage right now, utilizing not only the bot, but the barricade as well. Bionade comes in quickly, though, with the hack, making this extremely difficult. The Mortality Field is absolutely vital from neutral to keep him still going.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing back and forth here. The poke is continuing, and no one really has a great lead just yet. I mean, there is a slight lead right now for O3 Splash, but a nice hack again onto Cowman, who's going to start trying to be a little bit more aggressive and take the space.
Yeah, Vision almost doesn't get out of there, barely in time. Maneuvering away. Cowman also utilizing this inner wall very, very well to block some of the sightlines from the back as Lukewarm gets the takedown onto Vision finally with how aggressive and a little bit more overzealous positioning that Vision was playing, and now it's a snowball effect that they're going to be able to overwhelm Saints. Nano boost onto False, though, gives a chance for retaliation, especially since they have the Annihilation available, and deny this space and look to hold in this archway.
Yeah, I think once the Matrix is on, they're going to try and go forward and use this Annihilation to take control at this point. Again, Lukewarm barely survives, but actually the Translocate is so good from Vision, but the help of Lucio keeps him alive.
Oh my goodness. This is what you call prime support play to keep Lukewarm going. Annihilation, the Annihilation. Cowman backpedals for the moment. There is a lot of incoming damage. The wall is active to deny those icicles in the back line with Vision committing the EMP. There is a lot tossed into this, and O3 is unable to weather it. It's really Deco who buys just enough time with the sound barrier, but a Bionade from Tree comes in onto 2. Is there enough to follow it up? They divide and conquer with King's Wall and the Blizzard.
Yeah, and they're able to keep the sound barrier as well throughout all of this. A nice sleep from Tree takes down Deco. And this is Saints. I mean, it was an onslaught at the very start of this, but Saints weathered the storm completely through a couple of really well-placed ults from their DPS, and O3 Splash losing boat so early was a big deal because the Blizzard wasn't there, and now Saints potentially going to be able to take the lead here as Tree has another Nano available to them, and that's going to be great for False to move forward with.
The biggest thing to be concerned about is how Boat and Lukewarm will respond with the ultimates available. Up top, Lukewarm being harassed for the moment, so they can't quite get 3 sightlines onto this as we've seen before. Ooh, False gets chunked pretty heavily there, but the support's responding effectively as the Dragon Strike goes down the choke point, dividing False away from the team. Round in the corner, Blizzard is active, can't quite get out, is so close! The wall beautifully placed from King to deny False from going down. The Nano is also contributed, but after so many resources are pumped into False, Vega is eliminated, and there's just far too much overflow onto False in general.
Yeah, I mean, just too much overwhelming damage, especially with the Blizzard. It was a great attempt from Saints, really trying their best. If False is able to just, like, get out of there, they were, like, a pixel away from being able to get out of that Blizzard, but just unfortunately not enough. And now, O3 Splash are going to start continuing this and accruing this lead that they have right now. Both these Annihilations coming up, but the big thing to note is that Vision has this EMT relatively soon, and I think O3 Splash want to get out of dodge here. Nice anti-nade again! Neutral just dies before they can even do anything.
And this now forces Cowman to play more aggressively to see if they can take a victory in this fight. Cowman with a sliver of health procs the Annihilation. Is anyone there to keep him topped up? No! The supports can't do so. Deco was down and forced back. And you can just see this is a little bit discombobulated here from O3 Splash, but the same thing with Saints, and what they have left, their health values are so vitally low.
I mean, the bot is still being in the neutral right now, and it's going to be Saints being able to pick that one up. Deco there used a sound barrier, but it was actually countered completely by a wall from King, and False gets a little bit over-aggressive there, not knowing that there was potentially a Soldier on the other side. False gets railed, and that means that the advantage that Saints could have possibly had with their tank just completely evaporates, and now the bot is going to be reset here over back into that neutral positioning. And still Saints have these DPS ultimates to work with. That should be enough for them to win a fight. If they can hold one of them to be able to snowball, that's going to be how they can get back into the lead.
Slowly inching it back forward. EMP onto 3. Is there a follow-up? That's the biggest question. Both goes in for the cryo freeze to completely eliminate it, but the blizzard shortly after from King makes it even more challenging for Cowman to survive. Lukewarm forced around the corner, and King is just going to be cycling back to try and take down their counterpart. Boat has a blizzard themselves, though. Are they going to look to commit it? The wall comes out. 2 are down. There's the consistent pickups, and they will hold on to it for the next fight.
Was a Matrix committed from neutral, but luckily luckily for O3 Splash, Tree used Nano to keep False alive and try and push the tempo a little bit in that fight, so that's something that can count as a pretty decent trade for O3 Splash here. Soundbarrier, though, is going to be still available for Vega. It's going to be important to deal with this coming onslaught of DPS ultimates that Boat and Lukewarm are going to have. They need to have some sustainability through that.
So close to gaining the advantage. Disruptor shot gonna slow. Oh my goodness, there's a big pickup by Vision as well. Only 5 HP to Lukewarm's name, and they cannot escape. Boat, though, edging themselves forward. The wall to deny for now. Could look to try and toss the blizzard the second that it drops, since they're close together. 2 are in sights. The cryo freeze is active, and False is able to get out of this one with the assistance from Vega with the movement speed in the back, so they can rotate back in now aggressively. Cowman does pop the Nemesis and Annihilation. Correction by False on the opposing side. There is 2 ultimates contributed into this by Saints. They need to win this fight so they can claim the advantage. King shuts down Cowman, and they now are able to hold on, and you've got 3 other ultimates soon to be online for Saints.
Yeah, I mean, this EMP is going to be available, but if they can hold on to that, this is easily going to be a snowball for Saints here, who, again, weather another storm, an onslaught of ultimates from O3 Splash. They're able to hold their ground, and Saints now are in a great position to be able to get this checkpoint, especially because O3 Splash is going to be coming into them, and EMP is going to be available for Vision, and also a Blizzard. This is going to be a very difficult fight for O3 Splash to pilot.
We'll see if they're able to weather everything that is online here. O3 Splash looking to still play this high ground angle so they can keep the bot contested until they can drop from on high, instantly take down False, who is separated from the team. No supports having decent sight lines to keep them topped up. Saints at this point are just looking to really draw the time down even further. They don't need to commit anything into this because they'll be able to get back as a full group. Nice Bionade to land onto 2, and again, this is just another 30 seconds reduced from their time bank.
It seemed like it was a little bit disjointed there because False was kind of just left in no man's land under the point and just instantly died. The healing really wasn't there for him to be able to stay up, as Saints, I mean, still have those ultimates that we talked about a little bit earlier, but they've given a chance for O3 Splash to get back into this, especially with the ultimates that O3 Splash have now accrued. So Saints have to probably play a little bit high tempo, or else with where the bot is, they might get checkpointed.
Overclock active, goes for the shot, but what a sleep! Again, Tree denies that overclock from yielding maximum potential here. A 1-for-1 trade, but O3 Splash gets the better end of it once Lukewarm has been reawakened. Vega caught out in the open. Now down below, though, 1:45 still remaining. Saints should have enough time, though, to get back to contest against this, especially because False is still here. But then 2 picks come through. Tree and Vision are down, and this is such an optimal place to be for O3 Splash. They just have to keep Cowman alive. The supports look to continue to angle with an immortality field, guaranteeing that they can top them back up.
An immortality field. I mean, they're trying to keep Cowman alive. Cowman is getting taken down so low. Annihilation gets nothing because False gets eliminated.
Blown to bits the moment of activation. They even grab Vision as they attempt to go for the translocate. The distance now is going to be surpassed by O3 Splash since there's no one here to challenge it.
And they're also going to get the checkpoint here at the very end. They just have to push this one through. Lukewarm ends up going down to King, but it's not going to matter too much as the checkpoint will be secured by O3 Splash here, and they're just going to get out of dodge. They're like, great, we've gotten the checkpoint, we've gotten all we need, now let's just reset to neutral. I love it when teams do this because they know. And actually, wait, King is just over?
Oh no.
King, oh, this is really bad. This is really bad. I mean, I'm trying to look at a way that this could be positive, but I'm not really seeing it. Like, this is going to be very, very scary because now you just go back to the neutral here if you're O3 Splash and you just take the bot back, and Saints are going to have to win, like, 3, maybe 4 fights to be able to get back into this one.
I would have almost liked to see Saints not push the bot even further back to the neutral if they knew King was that far, to buy them a few extra seconds, but False gets instantaneously blown to bits. Nice headshot, though, from King, getting back into the mix onto Lukewarm. It denies them from having that one-shot potential with the railgun on the charge. 5 seconds to go. Saints now with Pulse back online, needing to regroup quickly. Hopefully going to be able to get the taxi from Vega. Overtime procs. Blizzard is down. Saints need to be able to turn this around, and the tail end of it as a couple of decent shots come in, forcing back Vision. EMP is not going to be used in this because they can't quite land any sort of recovery. They're at 1 HP. The supports swivel. Nano onto King, diving forward. The Vortex slowing down, falls up front as the EMP lands onto 4. 2 are down. Saints recover, but they still have a long way to go in this.
An incredibly long way, and I mean, it's going to be so difficult. They had to use everything in that fight just to be able to get the bot back in their control, and O3 Splash, actually, I mean, are they going to be able to get a contest here? It looks like they are going to be able to. Cowman's actually gone onto the D.Va just to get someone to this point, but it's actually close.
They will
Cowman's going to get there, I think.
Contention. Neutral now on to the Kiriko for the swift step if needed to dive in. Here comes the Blizzard. They're zoning him back, but it's actually not entirely onto the point, so they can play with underneath and not be locked down by it. King knocked up, 1 HP. There's the pickup, but Deco is down. Saints are still in this, with the advantage specifically having 2 supports to counteract against this. Both Vega and Tree doing everything imaginable to keep this going. Vision, though, has to force the translocate out. They're at the disadvantage. The flanking angle from Lukewarm. The overclock continuing to find shots. The assistance as well from Neutral, supporting them into the back. The annihilation. There's no one to keep both alive. They're going to be cut down in these last dire moments. Vega with a Hail Mary sound barrier to give them another attempt to push it into the checkpoint. Cannot be any further gained. This is O3 Splash with a heads-up swap in their composition, coming back for a contention and able to deny Saints. It is only Vega rounding this inner corner. The Kitsune rush is generated. Neutral denies it, and this will be O3 Splash able to gain that #1 seed spot with a victory over Saints.
O3 Splash claim back their #1 seed with a win over an incredibly talented Saints team who had some changes in, but for O3 Splash, they're probably feeling good about themselves, especially after what happened last week against Wisp. Now they come back in, they 3-1 Saints, and they can bring some momentum back into themselves, because that O3, I mean, it could have been very easily that team after that Wisp match had been like, okay, you know, maybe we get down on ourselves a little bit, but here they come back in with a great performance and they're able to take back control at first.
Ooh, this one was quite a fight, and it was so well done all around. It's just those last final instances where there was so much overcommittance into it. You needed Saints to be able to take that fight, and honestly, there was an instance of damage onto King in that final fight that I'm not quite sure exactly where it came from, but that changes everything here right out the gate, and this flanking angle from Lukewarm just was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I mean, it was very scrappy at the very end there, but the respawn advantage was just too much. Good also heads-up play from O3 Splash, bring Cowman on that D.Va, because he got there literally at the perfect time, because if he doesn't get there, I think there's a potential that's actually a checkpoint, and then O3 Splash or Saints have a potential to win that. So good heads-up play from O3 Splash, who, and a nail biter, I think, of that last map, are able to take it with a 3-1 victory. So O3 Splash gain control back of first, and they're going to be looking to continue that momentum in these next 2 matches that we have.
And before we talk about that next match which we're going to have, we do have an interview coming up, so don't go anywhere as we do get a few words from O3 Splash.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife. For your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
We return. As promised, we will have an interview with a lovely individual from O3 Splash, and that's specifically Infected, my friend. I know that this must have been a really great win to be able to pick up after what we had in our previous broadcast, and you're starting to get back into the swing of things. How you feeling now taking this one over Saints?
You know, it feels really, really good to beat Saints because they have like a lot of good players. And like to beat them like 3-1, that's our first 3-1 win too. That feels really good.
Awesome. So kind of take me through about going into this week, because I want to hear from the perspective of you and your team, because you're 7-0. It's looking really good going into like the last game of last week, and then Wish come out and just 3-0. It's pretty. It feels like it's pretty convincing. How is it going into this week, kind of knowing that you have this very tough strength of schedule going forward? Like you have to play Saints, Good Boys, you have to play Pip, I think, also tomorrow. Was there like any like kind of just like person who was like keeping you guys' spirits up? Like what was the mental looking like for your team after that?
I think we were all mentally fine, and I think we learned a lot from that match. Because in that match, we all just like played very passive and scared. And I think taking that into account for these next matches, we're just trying to like not do that and just play a lot more aggressive. And I think in that match it showed too, because we were trying to play a lot more aggressive. So I'm happy like our adaptations are working out a lot better than they did in the Wisp match.
Yeah, the adaptations definitely did really show and reflect into it. I mean, there were a couple of moments, especially when we talk about, Numbani specifically, where Saints were really throttling, and then you yourselves had to start fighting back into it. When you were aggressed very heavily and starting to almost feel on the back foot, what was that shift of momentum and conversation like as well?
I don't think we cared that they like stomped us on attack that much, because like we just haven't played into that comp, and like I just know Mikey's just hard coming for his team 3, 2, 1 every fight, and they're always gonna get a kill. So we were just focused more on our attack, and that would have been our map pick too. So I should not have said that. Oh well, whatever.
It's okay. We'll remove it. We'll remove it from the VOD.
We'll edit in post.
But yeah, so talk to me a little bit about kind of that matchup, because it felt like it was kind of, I don't think there are a lot of teams that are playing that style, and it felt more of like a convenience thing for Saints because they have to have Tree on the support role. So you're saying that like kind of there wasn't really that much worry about like the fact that they were playing this like comp and they were kind of steamrolling. You felt like you were confident enough with the rest of your team that like, yeah, we'll just eventually beat it with our own style.
Yeah, exactly. Because like we all know that the Ana Brig Monkey version is just better than the Lucio Kiri. So if we just play how we normally do, then we would be fine.
Okay,
like
awesome.
On Jib, we were a lot better. Sorry, yeah.
No, you're good. So now with like again the last match that you've got today and to tomorrow, are you still shooting for that #1 seed? You want to solidify that, right? You're back in the #1 for at least the time being. Are you gonna not drop a map or not drop any games?
It would look very good on the Wikipedia, but even if we lose these next 2 matches, I'm very like happy with like how we've overcome our issues. But I definitely want to get first. That'd be a good accomplishment.
Is there any team kind of that you or like O3 Splash kind of want to play against, either like going into playoffs, depending on like no matter what seed you are? Is there one team that you're kind of like eyeing somewhere in the bracket where it's like, oh, that's a team that I really need to keep my eyes on?
Well, I don't think there's a team we need to keep our eyes on, but I know personally I want to play Wisp again, just because I think we played very poorly, and I want to beat them again and show that like.
You want the salty run back?
Yeah, I want to show that it was a fluke.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's definitely I think a hard agree for probably a lot of either your players or just us as viewers being like, all right, let's see if we can cycle back. We'll just throw that one to the win. We'll overwrite it. It's like when you're in school and you just take the W with draw, and then you take the class again and you get like an A, and you're just like, yeah, that never happened.
Yeah.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time to chit-chat with us. Looking forward to what the last few matches that you have for this round-robin stage, and, with the way that you've been placing yourself in this #1 seed, it would not be, we'll be seeing you in playoffs, and can't wait to see how that continues to go in that direction for you. So thank you so very much for your time, Infected.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for casting. You guys are awesome.
100%. We appreciate it, my friend. Kenobi! So,
that was so nice.
I know,
Thanks,
right?
Infected.
So we've got one match completed, and it was a good one. We still have another one on the board, though, because realistically, again, it's with a couple of the teams that are still in the middle of the pack, and how we have to be so watchful and how the scoring is going to go, because again, Amplified being in that middle ground, if they lose this one with how well Wisp is playing that we've got next, is that going to put them in a less favorable position in that top 8? There's so many things, and we're going to continue to harp on that, because it really can go any way. It's not nearly like, I mean, with EU it's a different story, but for here there are so many teams fighting for their life.
And this is also like one of the most important ones, because this is round 10, I believe, that we're going to be casting, and round 11 is tomorrow. So like, this is a matchup that is going to be incredibly impactful this round, like to decide like who gets what. Because, and like at the end of the day, we'll obviously keep everyone updated in the chat, but this matchup in particular is going to be incredibly important for these two teams, because I think they're probably already pseudo guaranteed for playoffs. So they're at least very close to it. I think the winner like can really relax if they win this one. They can relax and they can just go in tomorrow being like, okay, we like know we made playoffs for sure.
Yep. And we'll see, as we're going to head to a short break. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see how this one's going to fall to the wayside.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.